Hello, and welcome to Fierce Feedback, the show where two friends bring two things that they hold very dear to them and battle it out to see who wins. Will, how's it going?
Hi, Liz Mercury, how are you?
I am not too bad at all. So how do we decide who wins?
What do you mean, how do we decide who wins? The public. It's in their hands.
It's in your hands, people.
Yeah. All we can do is argue the merits of redacted game that I've brought. You can't trick me like that. I'm not going to tell you. So something I realised that some listeners don't realise is that we do not know what each other are bringing.
Nope.
That's terrible grammar. We don't know what each person has brought every week. It's a surprise.
Until the time it's pulled from the bag.
Yeah.
Which is good.
And it's actually my turn to go first this week because you went first twice in a row because we're idiots.
Because I'm greedy.
Yeah.
I think it was because I was just so desperate to talk about Silent Hill.
That's
I was just
true.
like, I'm first, yeah, it's me, soz.
Yeah. But you can vote. We're going to, every time we release an episode, you'll find at Fierce Feedback on Twitter, there will be a vote. You can tell us which one you prefer. And then you can also write in and tell us any memories, thoughts, corrections, mistakes we made, whatever you like, to fiercefeedback@gmail.com.
Yes, please get involved. And also, if you want to comment on the Twitter poll post as well, that is all gravy. We just want to hear from you.
Yeah.
So, on that thread and theme, forgotten feedback this week.
Yes, what it is.
So you totally stole the show with Jurassic Park.
Not going to lie, you're correct.
Yeah, a little bit sad about that. Everybody's gone to the Raptor.
Great hashtag.
So we received some forgotten feedback that isn't really forgotten feedback. It's more like alternative feedback.
What does that mean?
Well, it means that it has nothing to do with the Jurassic Park game that you covered.
There were a lot of Jurassic Park games, I'll confess, at the time. SNES, Mega Drive,
Yep.
And the PC, I'm sure there's a bunch of others.
Yeah, so we had a listener
Okay.
talk to me about this.
Oh.
This isn't an email. This
Okay.
is like I heard your podcast and this is what I want to say.
Okay.
So they played a game on the PC that was called Jurassic Park Trespasser.
Not familiar with it.
Now, they said that it was a first-person game in which you controlled an arm.
I mean, most first-person games are in which you control an arm, right?
One arm. Un arm.
You never see both arms in an FPS game. What are you talking about?
Do you not? I don't play enough first-person shooters to know.
Apparently not.
Well, he said that you can, like, just... His words were, you just whip out your arm and you can hold...
Equip arm.
Equip arm. You can hold a gun gangster style
Oh, yeah.
and just shoot up velociraptors.
Sweet.
But he said it was really terrifying at the time. And he said that your health... So you played a female protagonist and your health was indicated by...
Hold on, female video game. This is not...
Yeah, you looked
This is going to
down
be bad, isn't it?
at your cleavage.
Be serious.
And you had a heart tattoo on your left breast.
Oh my
to tell you
God.
what your health was like.
This industry, Jesus Christ.
So that was Jurassic Park Trespasser. So yeah,
When was that? Please tell me that was a really long time ago.
This was...
And the world is a better place now.
I didn't ask about the date. I was just very excited that someone was
Liz.
talking to me about Jurassic Park related things.
Oh, dear.
But yeah, that's that.
Coming back to the topic of Jurassic Park on the Mega Drive,
It's
however,
a great topic.
which I realised I forgot to tell you about, the Dino AI, which was a special feature that was a selling point on the marketing, in which they said, this is not my false feedback, by the way, which was that they said that it was every gameplay that you did through was a unique thing, because the AI was so smart that they would react differently every time.
Really?
So in other words, it maybe had like 3 responses and it randomized or something like that. But yeah, they sold it on Dino AI, which every time I think it in my head, I go Dino DNA, which is not what it is. It's Dino AI.
What's that talking DNA strand?
Speaking of false feedback, a little reminder that every time we do Fierce Feedback, we're going to be telling you a tale in which there is one falsehood, one lie, and Liz and myself have to guess at which point during the description of our chosen game we are lying to one another.
I remember to lie this week.
Yeah.
I got so caught up that I just kept going. I think.
Seemed like forever, didn't it?
Do you know if we did?
My own Silent Hill.
Yeah. Do you know if we did a uncut version?
Yeah.
How long do you think that part of me talking about Silent Hill?
About 4 hours.
I think it probably was. Approx.
It's not true. But Liz, enough bants. It's my turn to go first.
Oh, after you pulled Jurassic Park out of the bag last week, I'm just feeling a bit defeated and sad about this.
Well.
Is it Jurassic Park 2?
Yeah. I have bought the SNES version. No. So Liz, got a little introduction for you. And it's a little bit of a verbose introduction, if you will, if you'll permit me.
Is it like a story?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a Jackanory. So if you'll permit me, I'm going to invite you to buzz in at any time when you think is appropriate and guess what game I'm about to say. It's going to become very clear in the third paragraph what game I've brought.
So can I shout buzz, and if it's not appropriate, you just ignore me and carry on?
Well, you'll have to tell me what your answer is.
So buzz answer.
Yeah. I feel like we should have figured this out before the show.
That's the nature of this podcast, I think.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so Liz.
Okay.
It's 1990.
Oh.
The 16-bit era is kicking off. You've got your Super Nintendo, you've got your Mega Drive or Genesis, you've got your PCs, your Amiga, you've got all of that. They're all vying for attention.
Yeah.
Now, at this time, no one's really talking particularly about the genre of artillery games.
Oh.
Games like Tank and Scorched Earth had hardly, pun intended, set the world on fire.
Like that.
Around this time, a young 16-year-old named Andy Davidson rips the game Lemmings to make a prototype called Lem Artillery on his Amiga 1200 using Blitz basic programming. He called this demo Total Wormage.
I know what you're doing.
You haven't buzzed in.
But didn't Jim...
You have not buzzed in.
Buzz.
Yeah.
But didn't Jim...
Who's Jim?
the gentleman you just said.
No, I did not say Jim Davidson, racist
Bullseye.
comedian. I said Andy Davidson, who's a totally different person.
Sorry, my brain just totally rearranged. I was like, the presenter of Bullseye.
No, that's Jim Bowen. You're thinking of Big Break with Jim Davidson. Liz, good Lord. I didn't realise we'd go on a wormhole, a rat hole that quickly.
A wormhole.
There you go.
A wormhole.
Yeah. Do you want to guess the game or not? Are you going to unbuzz?
I don't know which one it is.
Okay. Will soon become clear. He called this demo Total Wormage, which was a play on and logo ripoff of Total Carnage, which was a popular top-down Amiga shooter of the time. It was kind of like Smash TV, if you ever played that.
Nope.
It was really good. Over the next 4 years, he worked on the game, he's basically trying to make a game for him and his friends. So they like playing Bomberman or Mario Kart. And the idea was to make something that, quote, would never end, never repeat, and get people to take the piss out of each other.
That sounds great.
It does sound great, and it is great. It ended up getting banned from his school as kids were skipping class to play it. And once he finished school, decided not to go to university, but instead to start working at a computer shop where he would work on the game in his free time and then play test it on his workmates and members of the public. So he wanted to create a game that, quote, even people who didn't play computer games would want to play. And he said that during his time at the shop, a kid would sit down and play test for a few hours, and then his dad would join him and still be playing a while later, even though he'd never touched a computer game before.
Right, super cool.
So by 1994, so this is 4 years on from starting it, he was very confident about the game. And Amiga Format magazine held a competition for game programmers. And he thought he was like a shoo-in for this thing. So he submitted it, and then as soon as he saw the results, he was nowhere to be found.
Oh.
And he thought, well, I've got one more chance. I'm going to take it to a trade show.
Yep.
So he took it to, do you remember ECTS?
No.
So it was the European Computer Trade Show. There's a thing in London that used to happen. I think the last one was like 2004. So he took it then. He basically wanted to take it to Team 17. Of course, there's the clue.
Yep.
Quote, I wanted to take it to Team 17 first because they had a great reputation for being on the side of programmers and had tried lots of interesting ideas before. So he showed his idea to Team 17. They loved it and wanted to publish it. But they wanted to rebrand it with otters as the main character, as they felt they were cuter.
They are cute.
But Davidson disagreed. So they launched it as simply Worms in 1995. And
Andy
I'm now
Davison, you led.
going to introduce you to
That's a great story of perseverance. Look at
Worms.
that.
I've brought Liz Worms 1 and 2, PC big box editions.
Wowee.
Feel free to leaf through those.
Lordy Lord.
Yeah, so this is Worms, one of my favourite games of all time.
It's a great game.
It's just a joy. So they launched it as Worms in 1995, the following year, in September, for the Amiga, PC and PlayStation. So he joined Team 17 then and finished the Amiga version of it, obviously changed the name.
Yep.
And then they worked on the PC and PlayStation versions. And then soon after that, they also ported it to Super Nintendo and Mega Drive and probably some other platforms that I've forgotten. Like probably after that, the Saturn and things like that. So, for those of you not au fait, not familiar with Worms, I talked about earlier the fact that it's an artillery game. So it's not like a totally original concept, but it's definitely the first time that this kind of game had been done in a way that was super compelling and characterful. So, the gameplay. You've got a team of 4 worms,
Yep.
and you are placed onto a procedurally generated map. It's side-on view, and your squads of worms take turns to fire at each other. It's turn-based shooter artillery game. They've got an arsenal of weapons from the default, which is the bazooka, to kind of wacky things.
Banana bomb.
Like the banana bomb, which is exactly what I'm just about to mention. And that's a bouncing cluster bomb that's made of bananas.
This game.
So it's just an absolute joy. And it's basically, it's an artillery game. So it's all about just getting your aim exactly right. You had a little reticle, which is your angle. And then you had a power bar, which is how much force you're shooting with.
Just leafing through the manual, I completely forgot how many weapons you have at your disposal.
Even in the first game,
Yeah, there's like 8 pages of just what your weapons are.
Have you gone into another language by any chance? No, we're looking at the same one.
No. What did the sheep do? Is that like a decoy?
No, the sheep was like a bounce. Like basically, they behaved like a sheep. They sort of bounded across the landscape, and then you'd press space again to detonate them.
Oh no!
But sometimes they bounced off stuff and came back at you, which was really annoying. But yeah, so like Worms to me, like the way I thought about this, it's like the Tetris of multiplayer in the sense that like, they keep making sequels, they keep bringing out because it's such a solid format. And I would argue that it's kind of like a spiritual forefather to couch multiplayer games.
Yeah.
Along with like Micro Machines and
I love Micro Machines.
Sensible Soccer and things like that. And another quote from Davidson, he said once, I see Worms as my digital playground. I'm from the Nintendo school of games that you can get into casually, but if you want to play it longer, there's a lot of depth there. And I'd say that makes a lot of sense.
I remember playing Worms with my cousins. Mm-hmm. So I used to go to my auntie's every day after school, and I've got 2 older cousins. And we used to sit and play it together.
Nice.
And
what did you play on?
What did we play on? My cousin had like every console going.
So maybe it was PlayStation then.
Maybe PlayStation. But we would just, we'd be on it for hours.
Yeah.
And I like all the little noises they used to make as well.
Yeah, so he did all the voices as well.
Really?
Yeah, he did it all himself, which is really fun.
Andy Davidson.
Yep.
What a ledge.
What an absolute ledge.
I did not know of his name before this, and I am so pleased. I like his story of perseverance.
Well, I have more stories from him, so that's something to look forward to. So yeah, I like you played this when I was kind of like in my teens at school, and I've kind of played it ever since in various incarnations.
Yeah.
I've brought Worms 1 and 2, the big box, because these were like, to me, the quintessential editions of Worms. Obviously, the first one was the super pixelated looking one.
Yeah.
And the charm of like having all of these characters and you could name every worm.
Yeah.
And then at the start of each round, you had this 3D cutscene, which was just super primitive, but just really fun little introduction to what was about to happen, or just representations of the worms fighting each other in 3D. It's just cool.
On the back of the box, 1 to 16 player.
Yeah.
Wow. I never played this with 15.
Well, you could do 4 teams.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's wicked.
Over 4 billion levels of arcade action. And then it says, cherish your worms, name them, hear them, squeeze them tight.
No.
Why did he choose worms, do you know?
Why did you want to do otters, did he?
It would have been a completely different game, wouldn't it?
It would. He did. I do actually have an answer to that question. I'm sure I got a quote from him about why was it worms.
Worms. I like all the different landscapes as well. There's a list of those. Was he Scottish?
No, he's South England somewhere.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's just because in the description of the beach it says someone left the paradise a wee bit untidy, so I wondered if he was Scottish.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's just someone at Team 17 being cute.
Aww.
Yeah. So I used to play this. Like I even did. Like I wanted to bring it with me, but it's in storage at my dad's. I even did fan art in Microsoft Paint of
Really?
Worms. Yeah, I drew a lot of Worms things painstakingly in Microsoft Paint.
Did you did you name them? Did you have like names you would always use?
No, I don't remember. But yeah, like I loved just the general like piss taking of it.
Yeah.
Just being able to, because it's turn based, obviously you get the opportunity to, do whatever move without someone fending you off or like doing something that people hadn't protected themselves against.
Yeah.
I was never very good at aiming. Like I could never aim the grenade very well.
I'm still not in any game.
Yeah, but I loved, just finding a way to kind of screw people over was great. And also, like, do you remember playing Dark Side, as they would call it?
I was just reading this in the manual, so it's almost like hard mode, isn't it?
Well, basically what it meant is you would deliberately, it's kind of like when you agree to play a certain way in a game. Like, if you're like, oh, let's play knives only or something in GoldenEye or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's basically you are all like tunneling into the ground because you have a blowtorch.
Yeah.
And you could dig into the ground, or you have like, what was it called? The jackhammer thing.
Yeah.
So you could dig down. You could also place girders, if you remember, which were like new bits of land that you could put just anywhere in the open sky.
Yeah.
So people would just build forts out of girders until you ran out, and then just dig down, and then just try and get to each other. And that was just like how can I put it? Maybe like a way that you kind of made up to play. Are you struggling to get into that box?
I really can't get into Worms 2.
Liz is desperately trying to open Worms 2.
It's precious to you. On the box of Worms 2, it says, Worms is an absolute blockbuster by the Daily Star.
Daily Star, that's not what you want, is it?
It's got 90% from Games Master and Ultimate PC.
Yeah.
And it says, play Worms 2 on the internet.
Yeah, I'm coming to that. So, after Worms' success, there was a lot of pressure to put a sequel into 3D around the sort of 96, 97 as the PlayStation, N64, Sega Saturn were taking off in a big way. Less on the Saturn, obviously. And everything was leaping from pixel to polygon.
Yep.
Davidson pushed back against this and drove the game to higher quality standards with Worms 2, in which they placed a whole new art style into Worms, creating all new cutscenes with lots of fun intros to any match. They also brought internet play to Worms so that, quote, countries could fight against countries. And he said, everything has gotten quite stable in the world. We thought we could put international relations under strain by having them throw sheep at each other. So yeah, I quite like that. And so...
There's a homing pigeon in 2.
Yeah, there's loads of great new stuff in 2. The other one was The Old Woman. Let me just find his quote about that, because that was quite enjoyable.
There's an old woman in it.
Yeah. Okay, here we go.
Oh, yeah.
He said, since the first one where we discovered how powerful sheep were as a strategic weapon, we've since discovered that old women possess similar qualities. We think old women are neglected, so we say let's get them out on the battlefield, away from daytime TV, and that's a big part of Worms 2.
In the manual for Old Woman, it says, press spacebar to set old lady wandering around, complaining about the price of tea, that sounds like me, and mumbling about the good old days before violently exploding. Let that be a lesson and a warning to everybody.
There you go.
An erratic but fun weapon.
Another weapon that I wanted to call out was the Mad Cow, quote from Davidson. Obviously, the worms have gotten more sophisticated. They had their sheep, and now they also have cows. It's like, what do people do with mad cows? You can't eat them. You can't take them for walks. So we're getting them into the game. It's serving as a public education, and we're also getting rid of all the stockpiles of cows.
Public education.
Yeah, he's a bit wacky, this guy. I like him.
It says, frothing mad cows intent on mad destruction. Being stupid, poor cows, they will make no effort to get over an obstacle and just explode instead.
Yeah, it's a true story.
I don't think I played the second one then because I don't remember.
Did you not?
I don't remember these.
Oh man, I love to. So 2 is kind of very similar. Like, I'd say that Worms hasn't changed a huge amount since 2.
Yeah.
Like, the style of what the actual worms themselves looks like, the kind of cartoony style, has kind of persisted throughout. I think it's just like a winning redesign, new art direction. And like there were obviously like follow-ups, like we had Worms Armageddon, Worms World Party.
I think it was Armageddon I played. Was that on the PlayStation?
Yeah, I mean they all were after that.
I think that was probably the one I used to play with my cousins.
Yeah, the one with the little nuclear logo.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the reason I love 2 as well is that you had like a Windows interface to do your configuration of weapons.
Oh, that's cool.
And I found that a bit faffy. Like they made like an in-game UI for that, like editions after that, and I found it a bit faffy. So I really loved 2 for that reason. What I haven't talked about though is the extensions for the original Worms, which I really loved. They brought out DLC called Reinforcements that just had a bunch of new environment styles, and then they brought out I think it was a Christmas pack as well, and then they released that as Worms United, which was another like packaging of the game. So yeah, that's Worms, developed by Andy Davidson and Team 17, and distributed by Ocean in 95. And then Worms 2...
What's Andy Davidson up to these days?
Well, I'm going to regale you with that in just a second. Worms 2, 97. So yeah, only a couple of years later, they really went all out for that one.
Chat mode. There's a chat facility that you can send taunts and abuse to your players.
Yeah, I really love that on the box of Worms 2, there's a sticker for CompuServe that says, "Play Worms 2 on the internet."
The interwebs.
Which is just a big hook for that. To answer your earlier question, Liz, about why Worms... when people ask why Worms, Davidson said that when people think of Worms, they think they're quite boring. But the aim of our game is to bring to the surface the fact that there's much more going on down there.
Maybe we should have called it Sloths then. Because sloths are quite boring, aren't they?
Yeah. But you can see them, can't you?
Yeah, but they're up in the trees. They have some hand grenades.
They're up in this sycamore tree.
I understand his logic.
Yes.
I'm down with that. I don't
Solid
argue.
logic. There are over 30 sequels and spin-offs to Worms.
Whoa!
Did you know?
That's got to be in the Guinness Book of Records for like the most sequels from.
It's a good point.
Because there was a games Guinness Book of Records at one point, wasn't there? Like a games edition. Might have to check
That's probably
out.
true. That's probably true. Now, more interesting facts. Most Worms spin-offs are 2D. We know this.
Yep.
But Worms 3D came to consoles and PC in 2003. Did you play it?
I don't think so.
I did. I played it on PS2 and I really liked it, but it got quite sort of tepid reviews. It never really kind of took off because it was just it's hard to translate it to 3D.
Yeah.
And like he'd pushed back and like, oh, I don't want to do a 3D version. It's not going to work. I really liked it. I got to grips with the general mechanics and like, you know, like actually aiming in 3D and destroying bits of 3D environment. I thought was really cool. But yeah, and it wasn't better. It was just different, really.
Yeah.
And I really liked it, but that was the only one. I think that's the only one they did in 3D.
What do you prefer?
I prefer 2D. 2D is like it's the banana bomb, if you will. Now, interestingly, this wasn't the first attempt at a 3D Worms game.
Aww.
Kind of. I'm kind of making this up, but basically, you might remember this from PlayStation. In 2000, our old friends Gremlin Interactive, makers of Zoom. Zoom? What the fuck?
Did they do
Zool,
the
even.
Hogs of War.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Hogs of War. Did you play that?
I did. And also the same lecturer who worked on Zool worked on Hogs of War as well.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yep. So that was in 2000 for PlayStation 1. And it was basically Worms 3D, but with pigs instead. It was great. And it had voice acting by Rick Mayall, R.I.P. But yeah, due to the Worms 3D reception, they didn't carry on and they went back to 2D for all the follow-ups after that, and it's gone from strength to strength. Though, obviously, some of the more recent Worms games have had 3D aspects in the backgrounds, but to me, it doesn't really need it. I would love it if it was just like full-on 2D, parallax and all the rest of it. So you asked me what happened to Andy Davidson.
Yeah, what's he up to these days?
He left Team 17 in 2007 and opened a high-tech bar in Bournemouth on the south coast of England.
Seriously? What do you mean by high-tech?
It was called iBar. And I remember this because that was when I was living there. But yeah, it just had, I can't remember if it had like things where you could DJ, like iPod things in the walls and stuff.
Really?
Really struggling to remember that.
That sounds awesome.
Well, evidently it wasn't, because he then went back. It didn't stick around very long. He rejoined Team 17 in 2012. And then Team 17 have gone on to become a publisher, promoting indie titles such as the Overcooked series.
Oh, of course.
Which you know very well.
I do. I love them very much.
So yeah, that's Worms. I adore it. I've wasted / enjoyed many an hour of Worms.
It is great. I think
It's just a classic game.
it is a classic. You're bringing out all the classics.
Well, I just thought, like, if there's ever, like that's kind of my dream, right? It's like to have just a great idea that's like your game that you're known for.
Yeah.
I think that's just a great story. I love that he just had confidence in this idea.
It was like, yeah, I
and
don't
just made
want
sure it went
otters.
through, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just looking at all these super sheep in Worms 2 as well. So I
Love the Super Sheep.
had a quick look on the interwebs
Oh, yeah.
to see which game had the most sequels.
Okay.
Long story short, couldn't find a definitive answer.
Okay.
But the first thing that comes up is Mario.
I guess that kind of makes sense.
But I wouldn't say he has 30. I might write into Guinness.
Well, spin-offs, there's lots of, like...
Sonic as well, he's in there.
Sonic's got all kinds of crap. Sorry, Sonic. We love you, really. But yeah, why do I like it? It's you just can't beat Worms 1 and 2. It's just so good. It brings people together.
Yep, it really does.
It requires a bit of skill. It's not a game that you just get together and mess around. It's a little bit like you have to be a bit of a games player, I think, to really get into it.
Yeah.
And so I love it for that. Not that I'm being elitist or excluding anyone, but I think it's just got a bit of depth.
I can't imagine my mum playing it. That's what I usually use as the benchmark.
I kind of can. Like, I don't know your mum that well, but I can imagine, like, parents getting into it once they realised, like, that the mechanics were simple.
Yeah.
And I love that about it. I think I might have played it with one of my parents when I was a kid, but I don't remember. But it's to me, it's just about, he got this great genre that could be great and realised if I added characters to it and fun and personality to it, it would suddenly be totally way more compelling.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, and that's why I'm going to win this week, Liz.
You've got confidence from last week. It's all building up. Makes my little heart sad. I think going back to what you were saying earlier as well about how it almost was like the gateway into couch co-op.
Yeah.
Like couch co-op is like one of my favourite genres. It's weird. Horror's like my favourite genre of game, but like couch co-op, it's nice having your friends around, having a laugh, calling each other names.
Yeah.
Like Overcooked, for example.
Amazing
game. I've got a friend who is one of the nicest people in the world. She's never said a bad word to me.
Until you play.
Playing Overcooked, she turned to me, grabbed my hand and looked me right in the eyes. We were literally nose to nose. And she went, "Liz, cut those fucking tomatoes." And I have she's never spoken to me like that since. It's never been brought up again. But I love that. And especially if you've got close friends and family, it's just so good for that kind of stuff.
I mean, you are a faffer.
I do faff about.
I can say that much.
I get my buttons mixed up as well. So I was just putting the tomato up and down on the chopping board rather than chopping it. And I could see the heat in her face rising. But yeah, Worms was a good one. I remember me and my cousins playing it a lot. They used to just gang up on me and blow me up, to be fair. But, you know, it's character building, isn't it?
What, bullying? Well, I certainly found that.
But maybe my mum would play. She loves a bit of Until Dawn.
Does she?
She loves Until Dawn.
Does she?
Yeah. Anything like that. So like The Wolf Among Us, Until Dawn, where it's more of like a narrative kind of decision, not having to rely on moving the camera and moving at the same time.
Cool. Next week on Fierce Feedback, what Liz's mum thinks about Call of Duty.
Oh my goodness me. I'd love to get my mum to do a review of Until Dawn.
There you go. Do it.
It's so funny.
Put it on Fierce Playback.
Yeah.
Our YouTube channel.
Fierce Playback, my mum's YouTube channel.
Brilliant. So yeah.
I really enjoyed that.
We come to the end of my telling of Worms 1 and 2. And yet again, Liz, you failed to spot my false feedback.
I really like the backstory. I think your false feedback is his name, because Andy Davidson is the man who presented Bullseye.
No, it's not. That's Jim Bowen. I've already told you that. And my false feedback is...
Let me guess again.
One more guess.
Let me have one more guess. Your
Bullseye. Bullseye, for those uninitiated, was a game show when we were both young where you would play darts. And
yeah, it was.
For anyone who doesn't remember that, will be baffled.
It was the one where you won the speedboat and it had the conveyor belt.
Yes, and you had to play darts to win them.
Oh.
The conveyor belt was Generation Game. Let's cut that fucking tomato, Jesus Christ.
I think that it's the bar that he opened.
Nope.
No, what was it? What was your
The Otters.
No.
Of course it was. Why would they want to make them into otters?
Because otters can build. So if they use the
shit.
girdles,
Got me
they
there.
could build the
girdles?
dams. Yeah. The girdles.
I don't think they built them out of girdles.
These otters do. No, I'm thinking about beavers as well. Gosh, I've not put my head on this morning.
No.
I'm just getting really confused about everything.
Good Lord.
But I don't think that would be unusual.
What, Otters, the game?
Yeah.
It's probably no weirder than worms. Let's be honest with ourselves.
I mean,
But they couldn't drown. And of course, worms, you had the rising tide in sudden death mode that would come up. I'm wiggling my fingers like waves.
Like the waves come up.
Yeah.
But if they evolved, they could spin their heads like Earthworm Jim and get out. Do you remember that? Do you remember
Where he's a
the Earthworm Jim
helicopter?
game? Yeah.
Of course I do.
That was a great game.
Yeah, we'll cover that later. Not right now.
Okay.
Liz, it's your turn. Please unveil.
Do-do-do-do. That's my unveil tune.
We haven't unveiled anything.
I'm going to put this over. I'm going to put the Worms 2 manual back with you because I just keep leafing through it and I'm scared I'm going to break it. Is it my turn now?
Yeah, I'm waiting for you to unveil a game.
So, this is one of my most played
Uh-oh.
and what I still talk about a lot with my friends who also play a lot of games.
Okay.
So I've got like 3 games that I wish there would be remakes done.
That's not a very long podcast, Liz.
Well, 4 actually.
Okay.
And this is one of them.
Okay. Will you tell me what it is?
Wait,
Okay.
picture this.
Okay.
It's like Victorian London. I think it's Victorian London. You've just finished gymnastics.
What?
Just been to gymnastics
They do
practice.
gymnastics in Victoria, London.
They did in this game.
Okay.
You've just finished gymnastics. You've come home. And your dad's dead.
Oh, shit.
I know. So my games are always a downer, aren't they?
Silent Hill 1886. Is it that?
So you're not happy about it, but this priest turns up and he says, I've got this book.
Okay.
I think I can find out what's happened here.
Okay.
So let's go to the funeral, see what happens. So you go to the funeral and someone hands you a note that says, check out Adam Crowley. Do you know what game it is?
No.
No?
No.
Oh. Okay.
Was that the big reveal where I was like, what? Tomb
Adam
Raider?
Crowley.
Adam Crowley, star of Tomb Raider.
So I am revealing to you the 1997 PlayStation game Nightmare Creatures.
Oh, okay.
Have you heard of it?
I remember it. I don't think I ever played it.
Well, you're a Dreamcast fan, aren't you?
Yeah. Loved it.
So this was released for PlayStation, but also for the N64, not the Dreamcast, got mixed up.
Okay. Yeah, don't care for it.
I'm having a really good night tonight remembering the facts. So it was released for PlayStation, Europe got it in 1998, North America in 1997, N64 was 1998. So on the PlayStation, as was at the time, it had lots of lovely cutscenes in it. On the N64 version, however, it did not. It had like the scrolling screen of text to like set the story.
Oh dear.
So I'm going to read the back of the box like I usually do.
Yeah, please.
You don't look impressed with this box, is it because it's absolutely
It's
destroyed?
it's mostly smashed.
I've had this game forever.
Liz, I'm curious to find out what game is actually inside it.
Oh, I think it's actually Nightmare Creatures.
What? First time ever?
Oh no, it's Fahrenheit.
Perfect.
So I just want to show you the real estate on the back of the box.
Yep.
So there's the tiny...
Not a great design.
The tiny screenshots in the world of the game and then a massive monster hand that takes up the whole of the back of the box. It deserves more than that. It's a great game. In fact, at the top, it got 90% from Play Magazine. Do you remember Play Magazine?
Vaguely, yeah.
I collected them because I used to write
You had a
into them all the
PlayStation.
time.
I didn't. That's the problem.
I wrote into them about a boss in this game as well, actually.
Did they print it?
Yeah, they did.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, they told me how to beat it. So the back of the box says, a fantastic full-on splatter flick. Buy Nightmare Creatures and you won't regret it.
Oh.
90% Play Magazine. So the back of the box says, scientist Adam Crowley has created a hellish brood of monsters. Now London has become their feeding ground. Fight against this horrific legion as either Ignatius or Nadia, she's our gymnast.
Okay, yeah.
Ignatius was the guy who came with the book. See how I set the story?
No, I've got no idea what you're talking about. But
In
okay.
this 3D combat exploration, possibly the most terrifying game ever.
Possibly.
Possibly.
Okay. Not that confident then.
Great game, this.
Okay. Can I have a look at the box?
Yes, it's great. And the manual's very comprehensive as well.
It's always good to know.
So, what do you want to know about first? In
I want
fact,
to know about what it is, like what type of gameplay we're talking about. Is this the third person? It looks like a
really
third
good.
person action.
Yeah, so it's a
game.
third person. I would say by today's standards, it's probably a hack and slash.
Die hack and slash.
A hack and slash. So it's third person. You play as either Nadia or Ignatius, the two main characters. There's also a cheat. So in the back of the manual that you're looking through, there is a code that I've put in that I must have written in all those years ago.
Oh, nice. You've got up, circle, triangle, up, up, cross, cross, cross.
Yep. Now I thought this is going to be the mega reveal all items, so I put it in. Took me to level 2. So clearly,
You thought, oof, that was grueling. I better write this down.
so there's actually a code that you can put in where you can play as a monster as well, which is quite fun.
Now, Liz, I'm just going to suggest that maybe you have missed a trick by not reading the first page of the manual.
No, look in my notes. Look in my notes.
Go on.
Story set in London, which is probably why I like it. There's a bloke who is a man of science, makes some nightmare creatures. Nadia gets back from gymnastics, finds her dad's been killed by Adam Crowley. Read the first page in the manual.
Right.
That's my notes.
Is that what you were about to do?
Yeah.
Because the first page of the manual is more of a boast than perhaps what you just read.
But would you rather have the official or mine?
Yours.
He said that with his back, his arm twisted up his
Just
back.
Terrified.
Was my paragraph not enough?
No, I just quite like the way that they've written this.
You ought, right. Okay, before you read that.
I'm not going to read it unless
No, I
you
think
allow
you
it.
should. Oh, of course, no. So, one of the things, you know how I said this was a game I played to death, but also a game that I speak to about my friends still a lot.
Did you speak to it about your friends? You say, hello, nightmare creatures. Let me tell you about my friends.
It's my only friend.
Yeah, you tell your friends about it still now, even
Because
today.
the beginning cutscene, the narration of it, is like just brilliant and just sticks in your head forever. Iconic, if you will.
I would assume that you would like to do an impression of...
Of course I would.
Yeah.
So the cutscene starts, there's a man hunched over. Close your eyes, pretend.
I'm going to close my eyes. I'm going to invite the listener to close their eyes. And if you're driving, don't do it.
There's a man hunched over a nightmare creature. He's doing all the experiments on the body. This voice comes in and he goes, "He works alone, defiling the bodies of the dead." Yeah? And it goes on, and then at the end, it goes, "And now," close your eyes,
Sorry.
"and now London is engulfed in nightmare creatures." And then all the music goes, and then a wolf goes,
creatures.
"Woo!"
No?
Well, in the sequel, Rob Zombie did the music, but not in
Brilliant.
this one.
Disappointing.
No, the music in this is great.
Also
in fact,
brilliant.
one of the things about Nightmare Creatures that I remember the most and that holds up extremely well when I went back to play it
It
is
weren't the case. I'll tell you that much.
It wasn't the case that smashed 2 bits.
Yeah.
It was the music. It's very atmospheric and there's a lot of like, it's not so much the soundtrack, but like the undertones of it. So, for example,
I mean, the diegetic sound?
is that what it is?
Well, that just means
There's almost like a ambient sound that's just very unsettling.
Oh, okay. So that's not music then. You're just like, it's...
So like, for example...
Yeah.
So you start the game.
Mm-hmm.
The game menu is a dark tunnel going under, like, into the tunnels of London.
Mm-hmm.
You've got the two characters on either side of the tunnel. And then you choose which one you want, and they run through the tunnel.
Yeah.
But all the time that's going on, you can hear the monsters howling on the other side of the tunnel and echoing, and it just is really nice.
Nice.
You start the game, it has a little bit of background music, but then there's almost like an underlying, like the occasional sound effect that maybe sounds like a slab being pulled, or like a tinkling sound, or like a heartbeat sound.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
So it's like, when we say non-diegetic sound, I'm pretty sure I'm getting this the right way around. It's things that you can't see directly. You like if you see someone hammering in a scene and you hear a hammer, that's diegetic sound.
Yeah.
Non-diegetic would be like cars honking in the background or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's the non-diegetic sound that's like
It does
spooky
it
and
really
ethereal.
well.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's the thing about that era, though, isn't it? That we leaped to like the compact disc era with PlayStation. Suddenly, you had CD quality sound in games, whereas before it was just like that's like and stuff like that.
They did it very well.
Yeah.
So I guess that leads me on to just talk about... I'll talk about the gameplay again in a minute, but it leads me on to talk about the talent. So again, as I say in every episode, I'm sorry if I pronounce these names wrong.
Okay.
So Alan Guillet, David Cash, Alan Guillet, the programmer, he was the technical director on the recently released A Plague Tale.
Not familiar, sorry.
It's super cool, and it's like set in, I think it's like France around the time of the Black Death.
Oh, I have heard about this. Yeah.
Yeah,
I've heard good things.
Yes, definitely. It looks great. I've not played it myself, but...
I didn't realise that was what it's called.
And then Frederick Mott, who I follow on the the Twitters, because I love the music of Nightmare Creatures.
Okay.
He did the music for Nightmare Creatures. He goes by the name El Mobo. He worked on Nightmare Creatures 1 and 2 before going freelance. Nightmare Creatures was published by Activision in North America and Sony Computer Entertainment in Europe.
Nice.
And it was developed by Callisto, who were a French video game developer. Mm-hmm. And they also did the Fifth Element game. Yeah.
That was going to be on my list.
Well, we can share a developer.
We'll see.
So we were talking about the gameplay, weren't we?
Yeah.
Gameplay was fun. So I think by this point... by modern standards, it would be called hack and slash.
I was going to say, is it a hack and slash? Yeah, it's like a precursor to a Devil May Cry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I always played as Nadia because she was a lady, and I'm a lady.
That's true enough.
So Nadia had a sword, and you would start as I remember, each level gave you a different combo.
Oh.
So you had a sword attack, but then you also had like physical attack, and she was a gymnast, so she would just kick them all over.
Would you build up and you still have the ones from the previous levels, or is it? Oh, okay, cool.
Yep.
So it's skilling up.
It was really cool, and you would get like heavier attacks as you went. So Nadia did this like jumping, spinning slash with her sword that would just cut the weaker enemies in half. Mm-hmm. That was quite cool. So it would be 3D environments that you would explore, and you would find levers to open crypts, and you would sort of kill those nightmare creatures.
Nice.
But at the same time, there was something called a stamina gauge that was... you could disable it on the N64 version, but not the PlayStation version.
Okay.
And that was something, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but something that you don't really see very much in modern games, where it would count down over time. And the only way to refill your stamina was to kill something.
Oh.
So you always...
So like health that's just, you're always dying a bit.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
weird.
you had to balance up, because the environments were quite large, so you had to balance up exploration versus finding something to kill. Because if your stamina bar got to 0, your health would start going down.
Right.
So you always had to be on the hunt to kill something.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking of things like, it's not a direct parallel, but things like Stalker, where you'd have to like replenish health in various ways, and you'd be degrading.
Yeah.
And your weapons would be degrading.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess maybe after showing it as like a literal bar, maybe designers thought it was just like it was too overt, I think, as a thing. So maybe it seemed too punishing.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why Nintendo didn't want it.
It was a very difficult game as well. I remember it being ridiculously difficult.
Okay.
So what you would also have, and they're listed in the manual, is you would have your weapon attack and your like melee attack, but then you'd also have objects you could pick up. So one that I really liked was like this saw, and if you had it selected and you activated it, any hit that you did would just dismember them.
Nice.
Dismember the nightmare creatures. Nice. There was like an ice attack that would freeze them all within a radius and then they'd shatter like glass. There was this big gun that you would spin around in a circle and shoot all the...
everything in range.
Yeah, it was dead. Good. The other thing that I liked about it was that it was set in London and each level was a different location in London. So you had Hampstead Heath, you had the Thames Tunnel, you had Highgate Cemetery, you had London Zoo.
Okay.
Marylebone. And I'm a bit of a sucker for any game set in London. Like Uncharted 3 is my favourite. Love it being set in London, have that London level.
Right.
Tomb Raider 3 is my favourite. Love all the London levels.
Okay.
Love Nightmare Creatures.
Did you love GTA London?
Is that real?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Never played that.
Yeah. There's an extension for original GTA.
Are you having a giraffe?
No. It's a true story.
Didn't know that. I'll have to have a look at that. Probably really like it.
Yeah. But why?
So within London,
Yes.
we've got werewolves.
Uh-oh.
We've got zombies. We've got flying bats. We've got, in my notes, it says...
Sorry, flying bats isn't... I mean, bats fly anyway. It's not...
Oh, well, they were like banshee... what are they called? Not Valkyries. They were like screaming women with bat wings.
Screaming women.
Big hulking type blue monsters with multiple arms.
Okay. This sounds like the cast of Mortal Kombat or something.
I love Mortal Kombat. One of the monsters... So, yeah, after every few levels, there would be a boss.
Okay, got it.
So the one that I wrote in the Play magazine about was one, I think he was in the London Underground, and he was a bit like a Jack the Ripper looking character, and he would throw bowels.
Bowels?
Barrels.
Oh, barrels.
No one's bowels. And then the one in the Thames was a mutated great white shark.
Which, of course, you love on account of being obsessed with sharks.
Yeah, I love him. Now, the thing that I also enjoyed...
Go on.
The end boss. I haven't done the story yet, but I will. And then I'll let you read the actual story. So the end boss is the main bad guy, Adam Crowley.
Okay.
Adam Crowley. I don't know what he prefers.
Adam Crowley.
Yeah. So he's the end boss. And he mutates and you fight him on top of this burning building.
So he turns into a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde scenario.
Yeah.
Got it.
But do you know what the most amazing thing about it is? That I remember even at the time, and it's scaring me when I was younger, laughing about. Hair stays the same.
Didn't expect that.
Behold my mighty power, leave my hairdo.
There's probably some artist that put a lot of work into the hair and was like,
leave that.
Leave that. That's the best bit.
Well,
otherwise, how are you going to recognise him?
Yeah.
What if they blink during the transition?
And out of all the monsters, he did have the best hair.
There you go.
So, you can't really...
I like the thought of you going back and check. No, that hair's shit. That hair's shit. Yeah, best hair. Best hair.
So would you like the story from my perspective?
Yes, please.
So, it was good.
Cool.
So you're Nadia, you come back, your poor dad's dead, and you get past a letter at the funeral that says, watch out for Adam Crowley. Ignatius has got a book. Now the book...
Sorry, you haven't covered who Ignatius is.
He's the priest, he's the other playable character.
Right,
Never played as him.
Got it.
Seems all right.
Does the priest give her the note? Or is the priest just at the funeral?
No, I can't remember who gives him the note.
Okay.
But he goes, I've got this book. Turns out it's the lost diary of Samuel Pepys.
Okay. Of Fire of London fame?
Well, yeah. So where's my notes on who he is? Because I had to look it up because I'm not one for history unless it's in a video game.
I mean, this literally is in a video game.
So Samuel Pepys, or Pepys as I used to call him when I was younger because I couldn't read.
Well, that's because you've Never mind.
Was an administrator of the Navy of England, and he kept a diary from 1660 to 1669 of eyewitness accounts of the Great Fire and the Great Plague of London. Yes, well, the story of nightmare creatures goes that actually his eyewitness accounts in his diaries, those great, disasters were caused by nightmare creatures.
Well, that makes sense.
So there is this brotherhood called the Brotherhood of Eckert, and they conduct experiments on people in London.
Nightmare people?
Throughout the ages.
No?
Nightmare people. So Adam Crowley, he wants to carry on those experiments. So he tries to make an elixir that gives you strength, gives you immortality and strength.
Yeah.
As always with
Serum.
these things.
A bastard serum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Never works out though, does it?
No.
Didn't work. So it just
Didn't work.
So it just turned people into nightmare creatures.
No.
So what you're doing is you're tracing through the lost diary of Samuel Pepys, going to each of the locations in his diary, and you're after Adam Crowley.
Right.
Um,
Is this during the Fire of London?
well, the end boss is kind
A
of
fire.
the end boss is you're in a burning tower and you're fighting him there
Tower
with his
of London?
lovely hair. I think one of the levels is Tower of London. I wrote down all the. Let's have a look. No, it's Westminster.
Okay.
The roofs.
Roofs?
The roofs. Yeah. She's dead good.
So you find him, you battle him, the environment's on fire.
You chop off his head, comes
Oh.
back in sequel, isn't it?
Spoilers.
So that's my account of the story. Do you want to read it?
Yeah, so they've got in the first page of the manual, they have a little story, which I'm going to regale you with right now. And it says, history is full of coincidences and
is.
often repeats itself. However, the role of chance is less significant than people suppose. The Great Fire of London in 1666 and the fire of 1834 at first do not appear related. And yet, in London, a strange story is whispered.
Brilliant.
The story tells of a secret society called the Brotherhood of Hecate.
See, I said that.
You said Eckert, but anyway.
It's just my accent.
Aye. That rose and declined in the 17th century, and of a man named Adam Crowley, who sought to restore it to its former power in 1830. The story goes on to tell of a foggy night when London was overrun by monstrous creatures until suddenly no further references to the Brotherhood and the monsters in the fog are made. However, the legend mentions two mysterious people. The black-coated Ignatius, a man of God, said to have chased away the creatures with the help of a young American with a killer blade.
Yeah, I mentioned
It just
it.
went right off. She got a killer blade. Nadia F.
Yep, shouldn't have a
He
surname.
failed to find the full surname. Long hours of painstaking investigations might suggest the story is actually true. Might suggest. It only takes a minute. It only takes the action. It only takes the actions of a few careless and misguided cranks to turn an entire town into a maelstrom teeming with
Love that
monsters more horrible than our worst nightmares. Last paragraph, I promise. It takes someone who is not only brave but honest to ask themselves the question, do I dare fight my nightmares?
Yes, because it's great.
English. I don't think that's part of the story.
So, I think I told the story well. I do like I think that's another one of the things I like about it. I like the whole setting up that it does. So the beginning cutscene is very, sets it up well, puts you in the mood, the whole, the cutscene, the voice, everything. You ready to go. You want to get those nightmare creatures. The little blurb that you've just read.
Little blurb.
Love it.
Love it.
Ready to go.
Yes.
So, Nightmare Creatures, considered a commercial hit,
Yeah.
with global sales of above 1.5 million units by January 2000.
Nice.
And it definitely has a cult following that I am part of. So a couple of things that kind of bubbled up as a result of Nightmare Creature's success. So in 2000, both IGN and GameSpot reported that a film was going to be created of Nightmare Creatures,
Okay.
which I wish had happened because it would have been great.
Right.
So I'm just going to read what IGN said.
Okay.
So, an announcement made today by Callisto Entertainment, APG and the Studio Canal have acquired the rights to Callisto's popular video game franchise, Nightmare Creatures. The movie adaptation will be directed by Ralph Zondag of Dinosaur and will be written by Matt Kurelnik, who the Callisto press release states as having recently completed 3 major products, Paid in Full, Total Recall 2 and Hellhole.
Sorry. Couple of things there.
My
So
terrible pronunciation of people's
No,
names.
can I just have a little look at that?
Sure.
So they said recently completed 3 major projects for Dimension Films. Oh, right. It says Paid in Full, Total Recall 2 and Hellhole.
Did I just read 2?
No, it's just the fact that it sounded like they were saying, look, he's made a couple of major projects. He's been paid in full. They haven't gypped him.
Oh.
So I was like, wait, what? He got paid. Why does that matter? Also, there was no Total Recall 2, so that's a total gyp.
So, I think...
There was a remake, which was shit. But...
So, GameSpot said that Nicholas Gorm, who... I really hope I'm saying these people's names right, and I apologise to anyone that I offend with my pronunciation, who was the president of Callisto. He said that Nightmare Creatures has a very rich universe that allows us to explore many things beyond the video game itself. The opportunity to make this key Callisto franchise into a movie is extremely exciting, which I agree with, but it sadly never happened. There's still time.
There is still time. The world's still turning.
So in 2017...
Yes.
Reddit went a bit mad.
Okay.
Because a game studio called Albino Moose tweeted that their next project was going to be Nightmare Creatures, and they released a teaser video.
Okay.
So they said, we're going to do a remake. They did a teaser. And then it kind of all went a bit silent.
Oh, no.
And people on Reddit were like, what's happening? So I stalked their Twitter account recently.
As you do.
As I do, because I love Nightmare Creatures. And this year, a few months ago, they did say that they are still working quietly on what they call Operation NC. And
Nice.
they're going to be releasing models of the werewolves soon.
Oh, cool. But did you say there was a sequel to it back in the day?
Yeah, there was a Nightmare Creatures 2, the game. And I only played
By
that.
the same studio, Callisto?
Yeah, it was by Callisto.
Okay.
I only remember it vaguely, but you played as somebody who had been... I think like brought into the cult by Adam Crowley and kind of tortured. So he was a bit of a tortured soul, and I think you were after him. I think you were like trying to hunt him down whilst in the world of Nightmare Creatures.
Right.
I think it was again set in London.
Now,
I never finished that one.
I'm not quite sure how far through you are with your regaling of this game, but I've not spotted any false feedback just yet.
Well, I'll keep going.
Okay.
I do talk about this game a lot still
Okay.
and force it on people to play. I really, really hope that the remake happens. And I was like, yeah, there's this guy called Adam Crowley, and he's a bit of a nightmare. He's got this occult book, and he's bringing Nightmare Creatures to London. And my friend said, oh, don't you mean Alistair Crowley?
Yeah, I was thinking that when you said it. I was like, wait, is that Alistair Crowley?
And I was like, oh, another person from history I've got to research. Cross Samuel Pepys off. On to Alistair Crowley now. So Alistair Crowley founded the religion Thelema and wrote the Book of the Law, which was the sacred text for this religion.
Yeah.
So Crowley stated that he was visited by a supernatural entity who provided him with the details of what to write in that book. So it was probably loosely based on him, I imagine.
So it sounds a bit like Mormonism.
As it does. That's my Nightmare Creatures.
So Liz, why do you like it, and why should it win versus
my
The
notes.
Incredible Worms 1 and 2? Available now.
I'm going to read my bullet points like I usually do. Why I like it. This was the first game I remember really getting into and being a completionist about it. I did. I knew where every box was. I knew where every monster was. I could speedrun all of the levels.
You put out all the fires.
I put out all the fires. talking about it. I wrote into Play magazine about it. I just loved the game.
Nice.
I think I wrote into Play like 3 or 4 times about it. Just loved it. Atmospherics and music. Even the menu is like a bridge and you hear the monsters on the other side. Music reminded me of The Thing too, like a low, slow heartbeat and a sinister tone. Simplicity of it, just nice. Streamlined, it's great. I think I summed it up.
That was it.
So, yeah.
What more do you need?
What more do you need? So that was the 1998 Callisto.
Nightmare Creatures.
Nightmare Creatures. Did you enjoy that?
Fists of Vengeance. I did enjoy that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice because it seems like a precursor to, like I said, Devil May Cry's and your Bloodborns and your Sekiros and all this kind of jazz.
So did you not guess my false feedback?
No, I'm struggling to think.
Hazard a guess.
I'm trying to think of the things. It's probably not the N64 thing.
I guess. No, it was definitely out on N64. It was just, I didn't have the cutscenes. It just had like text and stuff.
Yeah, so it wasn't that. I'm trying to think of something more outlandish that you said. But you basically just said that a guy got made a serum and it just turned people into monsters instead of into Superman.
Always the way. People don't learn.
No, I've got no idea. What was it?
It was a great white shark. Why would a great white shark be in London?
What did you say?
The great white shark boss made that up.
Oh, fuck.
No shark in it.
That was pretty obvious.
I
just thought you're so into sharks. You seem really into the game. Why wouldn't it be true?
There's all sorts of mad bosses. I think one of the first bosses in the sewers is like this big 3-headed snake. There's that Jack the Ripper guy who throws the barrels.
Yeah, I mean, why not a shark?
Yeah, why not?
Oh.
I mean, Crowley's got friends in high places, hasn't he?
True. Right, Liz.
Hello.
Can we talk to Transformer, please?
Yes, we can.
So at the end of every show, we talk to Transformer. Talk to Transformer is a website into which you can type some words and it will decide to finish off a story for you. It's a neural network AI thing that
Built
you can go to.
Adam King.
By Adam King.
And you can go to talktotransformer.com.
Yeah.
Do you want me to put in Worms or Worms the game?
Now, I'm torn by this because we usually type in the name of the game and the word is. Now, if we were to type Worms is, I would have a bit of a grammatical OCD attack.
Would you? Do you not think it'd add to it?
I'm wondering whether I should put Worms are.
You can put Worms are. I can put Worms are.
Yeah, let's go with are because I'm a bit weird like that.
So I've written Worms are and I'm completing the text. I think we're just going to get a description of what worms are. I'm not going to know what is lies. I don't know anything about actual worms.
Okay, so this trawls all kinds of things and puts together a thing that should make grammatical sense. So let's try this out. Worms are the largest animals in their class of invertebrates. Because of their large size, they often survive for only one season. This is just educational.
Is it true? Does it mean in height or width?
I don't think either. Girth. In general, spiders are one of the most vulnerable arachnids.
No, they're not.
Especially if they are trapped in a web or inside a cave. These spiders may burrow into your gut and bite through your skin.
Can we stop?
They may escape in darkness of the night and strike you in the face when you venture out into the open.
What is this?
Once they're in the flesh, these
no, this is awful.
These prey
this is
animals are particularly dangerous. Yeah, I've got it the wrong way around. Whether they're living in your belly or in the soil, they'll burrow into the roots of your leaves, flowers, eating all the leaves or blossoms that grow there. If you're a plant, they'll use your foliage, your flower tops, and others in order to feed and live. If you're an animal, they'll munch your fur. If you're an amphibian or reptile, they'll feed on the sap in your tail and the hair off your back because you've been living in a pond or other body of water for so long. If you're an amphibian or reptile, they'll feed on anything they can grab, including your limbs.
No!
Final paragraph. Most creatures found in your body cavity will burrow into your skin, either your lower body, such as your arms or legs, or into your abdomen or upper part, but there are...
And it ends.
And it ends.
Well, I didn't like that at all.
I'm amazed if you're still listening to this podcast after
I won't sleep tonight.
Worms are from Talk to Transformer. That's disgusting.
No, I'm not happy about
I
that.
just think about spider death.
Talk to Transformer. I don't need that in my life.
Oh.
What if Talk to Transformer is just this collection of premonitions?
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to follow your same grammatics.
With Nightmare Creatures.
Are. Nightmare creatures are complete text. You ready?
Yep.
Nightmare creatures are so large in scale that they can overwhelm most normal humans. Normal humans.
Check. Correct.
These creatures possess a special ability, though. They can see, in inverted commas, through most barriers that normally would prevent them from seeing through normal light. In this case, they can see through almost anything. It's a remarkable power that seems incredibly important to the ancients, for it's essentially their only method of allowing them to communicate with creatures far older than them, and being able to manipulate them with their mind and even their blood. They also seem to be the only beings known to see past magic barriers. The first known mention of an aura, or power, didn't ask for that, manifested as an ability aura, and is known from a book published by the Royal Library of the Northern Kingdom, published by the Crown of Oaken in the 10th century England. The page itself contains a description of an aura that was created by the Royal Library staff in the Book of Ancients series, although it were a magic power in one. The author of that edition has given it a different name and said that she never knew it existed, but was surprised that it had. So am I. That particular entry was given on the book's introduction, and thus is the earliest instance to use the term aura.
Any mention of the nightmare creatures after that, or not
No.
really?
No.
Good.
I think you mentioned the nightmare creatures enough.
Yeah.
I think we've got enough nightmare creatures
In
for a
Worms Are.
lifetime.
Yes, true.
I
Well,
really
thanks,
enjoyed
Doctor
that.
Transformer.
Yeah, thanks for me never sleeping again.
Yeah. And good night to one and all. And thank you very much for listening.
If you're still with us.
If you're, for some reason, still with us.
So please,
Yes.
go to the Twitters, vote for Nightmare Creatures or Worms, and
Don't try and throw the vote by confusing people with your incredible German accent.
Nightmare Creatures or
Worms. It's definitely worms. I'm sorry, but I've got this one in the bag.
So you can go to First Feedback on Twitter to vote. You can also follow us on Instagram at First Feedback. And if you would like to give us any first feedback of our own, you have any comments or anything to share about the games we've talked about today, you can email us at firstfeedback@gmail.com.
True. And if you're a very kind person, we would love it if you could rate us and review us on iTunes.
Don't mention the Worms are from Torture Transformer.
Yeah, why
though.
not tell us what's your favourite spider attack instead of writing a review of the show? Because no one's really reading them. So just tell us your favourite spider attack.
What's your favourite nightmare creature that can burrow into your abdomen and come out your eyes, whoever it said?
You've made that one up.
Yeah.
Cool. Until next time.
Sleep well.
Sleep well.
Goodbye.
Bye, Liz.